Internet land, and welcome back to another vintage and spooky inspired video. That is because at the time of recording this, it is still October, which means it is still spooky season content time. I still have a few more Halloween videos yet to share with you, and there will be plenty of time to get back to our regularly scheduled broadcast. For today's video though, we are taking vintage and pairing it with Halloween, and you're coming along with me as I create vintage Halloween inspired pinup photos. If you are at all familiar with the 1940s or 50s Hollywood movie publicity stills, they would create these elaborate sets with some of the most beautiful starlets of the day, and a lot of the times those sets revolved around holidays. I'll put some of them here for you to check out, which means that there were some really great Halloween ones, and I took direct inspiration for my photo shoot from those. There was always ones that I wanted to do, but I never did because it involved a lot of arts and crafts, and so I kept putting it off, and I think this is the third year I have been doing this, so I said this is the year. For today's video, you're gonna come with me from the creation of those props, which was a labor of love in and of itself, all the way to behind the scenes, of course, of the photo shoots along with a little bit of the wardrobe, a little bit of the editing, all the way through sharing how the final photos turned out. So sit back, relax, grab your favorite spooky season beverage of choice, and come along with me as we create some Halloween vintage inspired pinup photos. Here we are at what was step one of this entire project, and that was the pumpkin prop creation. I have been saving large pieces of cardboard just for this very moment. I bought these electric scissors that were supposed to make this a little bit easier, but it was still quite a pain, and I don't think they were very friendly for left-handed people. And then from there, I drew out the face. So on one of them, I decided I would cut out the face, and on the other one, I decided to paint it. I checked the size of it against the stool that I was planning to use, and it ended up being pretty close to perfect. And then I moved on to the larger pumpkin, and this one ended up being a little bit more challenging because it was such a large space, and I had to get the proportions right of its eyes, its nose, its mouth, and get them all symmetrical, which I enlisted the help of my husband for that part because I am the creative. I do not like all the precision engineering type aspect of any of these things. So he helped me out to make sure that everything was where it needed to be. Basically going into this, I was just hoping that I would be able to pull something off here and make these actually look passable and good enough for the photos. I went with spray painting these, but if you're gonna do a project like this, I suggest not spray painting them because I ended up having to do a lot of masking. It made it really hard to do touch-ups, especially on that larger one where I painted the face. I ended up going back to Home Depot to try to get paint samples that match the spray paint. Turns out you can't really do that, so I would not count on that. I was able to get colors that were close enough, and you can't tell in the photos, but it was not ideal. At this point, I was pretty happy with the way the little one was turning out, but I was feeling a little bit skeptical about this larger one. It was giving elementary school project at this moment, and I was hoping just as long as I kept adding more detail to it that it would come to life. And I think that is actually what ended up happening, and I was happy with the final result. It just took a little bit of finessing to get there. So what did you think of the pumpkins? I was pretty happy with how they turned out, and even if there were some imperfections, I knew you wouldn't see them in the photos, and there's always Photoshop. So here we are in my studio. I ended up doing these photos, I think, over the course of 3 days. Here was the first look inspired by that pinup photo, and because I could not decide which outfit I wanted, I first did it in this outfit, and then I did an outfit change and brought in the fishnets to better match the photo that I was inspired by. This one was inspired by the actress Ann Miller. I know my pumpkin doesn't look exactly like hers. I did not love the face of the one in her photo, so I went with this one. And much like the first one, I had two different outfits because I could not decide which one I liked better. The third and final look I did on day one was inspired by the ever so talented Vera Ellen. I think that I came closest to matching her outfit for this one. I think if you're keeping track by the end of this, I did 5 different setups that included lighting changes and backdrop changes, but actually it was 6 because I just realized there is one photo at the end of this that I did not film any behind the scenes for. This outfit was not an exact replica of the photo I was inspired by, but I just loved the bodysuit, and here I am distracted by my cat for a second because she was just laying so silly right outside the studio. This was the pinup photo that I was inspired by for this shot, and I love the final result of this one, so you'll have to stick around to the end to see how it turned out. Turns out I was inspired by a lot of pinup art and not necessarily photographs, but at any rate, here we are doing this shot, and I enlisted the help of my husband for this one because doing the fog machine at the same time as hitting the remote for the camera was just too much. I also ended up doing 3 different outfits because that is very much my personality. I could not decide, and I like to just make it extra challenging on myself by doing the most. This was by far the most elaborate set that I've put together, and it involves some foraging in our front yard. I cut down some branches that were in need of being cut down anyways, so it was a win-win. Clamps are your best friend in a photo studio. You can see I already clamped on a broom that I made a few years ago for a different Halloween photo, and then I just kept adding branches until it looked full enough. The drink that I was sipping right here is actually the Dracula Spicy Sangria I recently did a video about, so I will put a link right here if you want to check that one out. Then I continued to make a mess in my studio, and because the outfit for this one was a little bit more risque, I didn't shoot any behind the scenes, and the photos will not be on here at the end of this because I don't really know YouTube's policies with that, but they will be up on my other social channels. I did a lot of removing things, adding things, changing the color of the backdrops, but it was fun to see the images come to life and get closer to matching the inspo shots. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed that small behind the scenes look at some of the vintage Halloween inspired photos I created. If you had a favorite photo, let me know in the comments. And I still have a few more spooky season videos coming your way before the end of the month, so be sure to subscribe so you don't miss those. Until that next video, I am wishing you a super swell day, and because it is October, a happy Halloween. Hello out there in internet land, and thank you so much for watching. How many times do I need to record this? More than you would think. See here? You could sit there. Or you want it? You come down here. Of some vintage Halloween inspired. Okay. Okay. Let's see.